And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk. Breslin Center, Michigan State loses to Duke 66-60. Great basketball game. Two really good teams. Top 10 teams, top 7 teams playing top 10 basketball. Great crowd. Michigan State, noon tip-off. Elite atmosphere at Michigan State today. Michigan State played well. Not well enough to win. Not well enough to satisfy Tom Izzo. John Shire, coach of Duke. Satisfied, happy, said he doesn't want this to be the peak of his season. So that tells you a little bit about how satisfied and how the level of accomplishment that they think that they posted here today. Michigan State led by 5 in the second half, led by 3 at halftime. Looked like a top 5 team for much of the game. Didn't finish the job. Konyndyk wrote an article about that. The 3 and out, Paul Konyndyk right here over at SpartanMag.com. Also go to SpartanMag.com, become a subscriber. 50% off. That deal is going to end Sunday night. So become a subscriber. The 50% off deal is going to end on Sunday night. 50% off and all the other stuff with the Athletic and everything else. Also, we want you to give us a like here to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support at Spartan Mag. So great atmosphere. It's December 6th. It's just one loss early in December. But for Tom Izzo, it felt like it was more than that. He'll get over it. It'll wear off on him. But this one hurt him because he wanted to beat Duke. In all due respect to Duke, he wanted this win for all his people and all the stuff that was going on. Didn't get it. Izzo's angry about the little details you wrote about, and Izzo's not going to sleep well tonight.
I just think it's a lot of stuff going on. You know, this week with all the use Izzo's favorite word around the holiday season, falderall. But you got a new football coaching hire. You've got the huge donation from the Williams family, and and you've got some stuff going on campus. You had a hockey game last night where Michigan State didn't get it done against number 1 Michigan. Then you've got a game like this where Michigan State is in the spotlight of the entire college basketball world, and they have been for much of the non-conference season. But to have a game like this where they had a chance to win and really played well enough defensively to win and not to get the job done, it bothers Tom Izzo because it would have been a good dragon for him to slay because he has had some bad losses to Duke on this floor. But this was a really competitive game. I think if you told me ahead of time that Michigan State would shoot 31% going into this game, and that Jeremy Fears would go 0 for 10, from the floor, Michigan State would still be in this game to the very end, I'd be like, okay, the defense is pretty good, and it really was. So there's some good things that Michigan State did in this game that I think will travel moving forward. I think defensively they are getting better. And Tom Izzo used the word elite defense today for the first time. When he was talking about Michigan State's defense before, he's kind of downplaying it. And then the other thing we saw today is the pick and pop stuff from Jackson Kohler, which is a huge development because that travels really well in Michigan State's offense against some of the best teams out there. And we've seen that over the years. If you want to beat a top 5 team like a Duke or whomever Michigan State's going to come up against in conference play, whether it's Purdue or Michigan, you've got to be able to hit that, hit that pick and pop 3 because the best defensive teams are going to be strong, they're going to be long and athletic, and that's what Duke was. And there's a reason why Michigan State shot 31% because Duke is long and athletic, and they are really good defensively. But that pick and pop element, we've seen it over the years against some of the really good teams at Michigan State. An underrated Michigan State or one with a lower ceiling. I'm thinking of the 2009 Michigan State team that went all the way to the forward field of Goran Sutan, being the pick and pop guy. That pick and pop action is just impossible to cover, and it's really good to see Jackson Kohler going off like that today. We didn't quite see the trailer. Some trailer threes, but that's the next manifestation of it. And then what Kohler's got to do a little bit better job than he did in this game is of some of the stuff around the rim. He's still too good a post player to be fading away into contact with. I know the guys are long, and I know they're good players, but go up strong, go up straight, and get fouled or go to the free throw line. Some of the stuff around the rim that just rims out, I think it's been an issue at times in his career. I think he's going to get better at it, but if he can do the perimeter stuff like that and get a little bit better at the post stuff, and then have Carson Cooper play like he did today in a lot of ways. Michigan State's got something to hang its hat on. These two big guys, it's not fool's gold. They played really well together. Jesse McCulloch is coming along. Cam Ward, once his wrist gets better, will be coming along. Michigan State's front court has a chance to be elite. And they've got some work to do with some of the guards and whatnot. But this team proved today, despite the loss, in conjunction with everything else they've done in the non-conference, that they can play with anyone in the country. And that's a good place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the locker room was a little angry. Fears was not happy with himself. Kohler was upbeat. Cooper's like, lesson learned. Can't wait to get back at it. That type of thing. But it's if they would have lost this game to Arizona, UConn, who's another top 5 team? Kansas, I don't know.
Louisville.
Well, Louisville, I don't know. Yeah, I guess they are ranked that high. But if you lose that, it's like, all right, we're pissed. We didn't do this. We didn't do this. We're going to get back to work. That's all right. But you lose to Duke again.
Yeah.
That's part of what bothers Izzo. As much as he respects Duke, it's not like he hates Duke, but it's been a little bit of a program rivalry for the last 25 years. And you're kind of judged by that. It's kind of like playing a bowl game in football. People remember how you do against Duke. And that's what bothers Izzo right now. He's having a great Mount Rushmore type career, but this thing, it's bugging him.
Yeah, he is 1-2. I mean, so I think he's like 2-2 in the last 4 against them or whatever. So I don't.
Wanted to beat him here,
Yeah, of course he did, and
he deserves it. Izzo deserves to have a good day like this today.
But you look at this Duke team, and I'm telling you, because we saw these guys at the Champions Classic, and we saw them playing against Kansas. This is the best team that Michigan State's played, and so far this year. And I think that the difference between this and the North Carolina game. You look at Michigan State started out a little bit slow against that North Carolina team. They hit some open shots like Duke did in this one. The thing for Michigan State is every time they needed a big shot, Jeremy Fears was able to hit it. In that tonight he went 0 for 10. He did a whole bunch of other things really well, and other guys had a chance to hit some shots, but they didn't have that. That guy down the stretch. Even against Arkansas, Michigan State hit some late shots and whatnot. Or Kentucky, everybody hit shots that night because the defense was terrible. But against this defense, you needed someone to, if you get to the free throw line, hit a 15-footer. Carson Cooper had a nice one there, but Jeremy Fears, we've seen him. Even if he went 3 for 10, man, we've seen
that little 15-footer against his own offense. About 2 minutes to go, could have made all the difference.
Right, and
off the dribble, which he's been drilling this year.
And we've seen him do it against North Carolina. That's one thing that he was so excited about. I think anyone that covers the team is like, man, that's a real development because it's really good. And then you saw it today, though. There's something about playing Duke that it gets in your head a little bit. We saw a couple floaters from him that were like the kind that Tom Izzo always tried to get A.J. Hogard and Rocket Watts and guys like that not to shoot.
That little teardrop runner.
Yeah, and those don't work against good defenses. They don't work against Michigan State. They don't work against Duke. Izzo would have liked to have seen him pull up and hit and look for that shot. But Michigan State played a really good game today in a lot of ways. They had Duke on the ropes. And that's why this one it bothers Izzo. There's different types of 6-point losses. There's 6-point losses where you're 15 down and you rally to come back and make it look respectable. This is one that Michigan State had a legitimate chance to win and didn't. And that's a problem for Tom Izzo. But this was not it's basketball season, so good teams lose games. It is what it is. I think, to me, the encouraging thing is that you're still continuing to see growth in certain areas. I still think at some point Jordan Scott could be in the starting lineup. I felt like that all season long. He just does so many really good things. I thought Divine Ugochukwu, he's continuing to do some good things, backup minutes, there's growth. There's growth being made. Jesse McCulloch quietly continues to do some really good things that make you feel good about the future. There's a lot to feel good about in this game, except for the win.
Sure, and the box outs is something that bothered Izzo, allowing 4 offensive rebounds on missed free throws. One of those led to a 3-pointer. Ironically, Izzo was harping on it, and ironically, Michigan State managed a good box out, and Boozer went over the top, and that's how he collected his 4th foul. Izzo gave a fist pump. I thought that was going to be the turning point in the game when he went to 4th foul. Put him on the ropes a little bit. Michigan State had finally there were no more missed box outs the rest of the game. Those missed box outs did damage, which Michigan State was in position to take maybe a little more firm control of it through the course of the game, and that's what bothers Izzo because it's something that they've worked on, but it came back to haunt them today. That one. The missed box outs, Izzo, it was really top of mind for him in the post-game press conference, even though none of them were like in the last minute, like the NCAA tournament game against UCLA in 2021 or the game against Purdue here in the COVID year when they lost. I think it was that year when they lost the game to Purdue late on a missed box out in the last 30 seconds. These were not in the last 30 seconds or even the last 3 minutes, but it still bothered Izzo just the same because there was 4 of them, not one of them. And Carson Cooper was upset with himself about that after in the locker room after the game. But part of that's because Boozer's just a tough guy in there, and you might do box outs one way against 99.9% of the people you go against the course of a season, but Boozer's different. And the bad thing is that Cooper had done such a good job on him defensively in the first half, holding him to 4 points in the first half, whatever it was. Second half, they came out, went to Boozer, faced up, drove, and he's a bull in the china shop going to the rim. But Cooper, you're not going to shut that guy out. But Cooper made him work, moved his feet well on defensively. I would say, some of what Cooper does on defense reminds me of a big guy that moves well laterally, almost like Shane Battier used to do it. I mean, Cooper's getting in terms of his getting in into the scouting report, moving his feet athletically, and having some of that strength of a senior. He did it against Wilson of North Carolina. He's done it against a couple other players. Did it today against one of the toughest covers in the country, but still didn't get everything covered Izzo wanted. So as well as Cooper's playing, Izzo still, kicking him in the backside, wanting more.
Yeah, to me, he reminds me of some of what Xavier Tillman, and Xavier Tillman went to the NBA on this, but Cooper, and I think that's where where I've always thought, like, if Cooper's going to have a chance, moving your feet against these kind of guys, and people are like, well, he's not on any mock drafts. Well, there's a difference between guys that are drop coverage bigs and guys that can move their feet. Xavier Tillman, there's a reason why he's got a second contract in the NBA. Was a very good college basketball player, was a very good defensive player, but the fact that he's got a high IQ, which Cooper does, and he moved well, it earns him an NBA paycheck. And the way the game is played now, you cannot, there's a reason why you've got drop coverage bigs that are mercenary all over college basketball. Guys like Carson Cooper that people like kind of disregard. He's a dude that has a chance in the NBA because of the way he moves defensively. And I was really impressed watching Boozer against Florida. There was a play where, as a freshman, his strength is immense for being a first-year player, and he plays with great poise. And if anyone watched him play with Jace Richardson 2 years ago at Columbus Academy in Miami, you would be like, who is this guy? Because he didn't look like the same guy. But I saw
Although he was ranked number one.
I know he's ranked number one, but he was just chucking shots, and he wasn't always a good teammate. Well, he wasn't always playing. He wasn't doing the smart basketball plays that he's doing at Duke. He's not a black hole like I'm thinking of some of the Kentucky bigs over the years that we've seen, but his strength for being a first-year player is amazing. I saw him he just absolutely displaced Chinaloo from Florida whenever he wanted to. And, that's a veteran big who's been through the wars and played a lot of NBA-type guys. And, he just backed him down with ease and scored over the top of him. And I'm like, man, that's different. You're not used to seeing that kind of stuff. And I thought Cooper played a really good game. I thought Michigan State played a really good game against Boozer today. What I've seen consistently from Michigan State is when they play these top matchup type things, they're not – it's not one of these deals where, well, he's going to beat us, but we're going to have to make up for it elsewhere. They've been pretty good in these matchups, and I think that bodes well for the future. But Boozer's without a doubt the best player that Michigan State has played this year in terms of his ability to impact a game in multiple ways. And I agree with Izzo. His passing ability makes him awfully tough. With the way they get the ball to the corner. And Duke screens a lot better than any of the other teams that Michigan State's played thus far. But that's a handful for Cooper. I think him embracing these type of matchups, it's going to be a big deal for him because he put himself on the map during this non-con. If maybe NBA teams weren't out there, but he put himself on the map with his level of defense in some of these big matchups. It's been impressive.
And NBA may not be smart enough to draft him, but later on when he makes a team, and Izzo made the point this week that he's not even turned 21 years old yet, or he's just still 21 at this point. He's a 21-year-old senior. Boozer, he's got the strength and skill, and 25 assists on the year. And there were one time in the first half, then another time, maybe 3 minutes in the second half, where they cleared out, and he gave his best shake move, jab, step, and go to try to drive on Cooper. Cooper moved his feet, shut him off of the baseline. You talk about Tillman. Tillman became a second-round draft choice, early second round, as a junior. When he guarded Zion Williamson in 2019, no one in the country had guarded Zion Williamson all year. Tillman did. Those type of things make you a rare earth commodity. Yeah. I don't know much about NBA and what it takes to make a team and roster development and so forth. But you make a good point about Cooper, and he's gonna get into his man years yet, and the shot is starting to come around a little bit. So the way he played defense against Wilson. I mean, Wilson for North Carolina had that one where sweep through spin dunk. That was a crazy great play.
Listen, man,
that was a lottery number 2 pick in the country type of guy.
I wanted to write in my preview for this that as good as Boozer is, he's not going to make a spin move dunk like Williams, like Williams or Caleb Wilson did for North Carolina. That was like next level. That was like amazing.
It was amazing, and that's what he had to do to score on Cooper.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to go to that move to score on this guy
right.
with no help. Izzo made an interesting point that they had so much respect for Boozer's ability to pass the ball that they didn't want to flash a double team at him. So it was all on Cooper for the most part. Cam Ward guarded him a little bit, and then at one point when Cooper had to sit and Ward was out, they had Konyndyk on him. No, they had Kohler on him for just a couple of possessions. Didn't want to do that too much. But Kohler, in all due respect to him, he's come around as a defensive player. Last year, there were teams that he could not play against. Yeah. We talked about that earlier in the NCAA tournament against New Mexico, against Bryant, against Mississippi or Mississippi State. Mississippi, he couldn't stay on the floor against some of those quicker, smaller lineups. This year for Kohler, so far, he's been passing those tests. So if you're able to keep Kohler and Cooper on the court at the same time, those two guys, plus Fears, is why Michigan State was ranked number 7 in the country and having a surprising start of this season. If they'd won this game and been solvent in all areas, I would have been like, well, Michigan State is kind of closer to their ceiling than they usually are at this point. But after a loss of this game where there were some flat tires and some things that Izzo's going to hammer home, like Izzo said after the game, we are going to get better. Still have to get that shooting guard situation straightened out. And Jordan Scott took some big strides in that area today. So they're still working on things. But Kohler and Cooper, as seniors, are hitting close to their potential percentile. And Izzo's pretty happy about those guys. And that's a big reason why they were in this one, although Izzo wanted more from Cooper on some defensive coverages team-wise.
Yeah, I think one of the things that they're going to have to figure out is Michigan State had some issues when Duke went small. Michigan State also had some weird lineups out there. So one of the things they're going to have to really, really look at, I'm not sure why Trey Fort was out there with Jeremy Fears and Divine Ugachukwu in the same at the same time. During this holiday break, Trey Fort's got to get some stuff sorted out big time. I mean, I still think there's some stuff there that he can do. It's hard to do that. It's hard to work on things and get. When you have to play a high-level game, to be honest with you, he's not. There's some things he's not ready for the high-level stuff. Like when he caught the rebound late in the game and he started dribbling up the court when he should be giving that to Jeremy Fears and Jeremy Fears lit him up for it. That's the kind of crap that gets you beat, and that's that mid-major stuff, low-major stuff,
get the ball to the point guard.
Whatever you want to call it. That's the kind of stuff that if you're a Michigan State coach, you're like, we thought we got this Samford crap out of him, and then all of a sudden he's doing that. When the point guard is telling him, I want the ball, and maybe you could have got a transition bucket, or you could have set up early and got like a pick and roll type of dunk. So they got to work on that stuff.
For 40 years here, rebound, get it to the point guard and go.
Right.
Unless you're Draymond Green or Allen Anderson. Otherwise, get it to the point guard, everybody run.
And every other time they tried, with a 4-man, I remember when Noli calls, I'll get it and I'll do it. It hasn't really worked out very well.
Once in a great while, you might get the clearance to do it and get the okay to do it. He doesn't have the clearance to do that because they're trying to get him programmed. And then
especially when he's supposed to be one of the guys running.
If he'd been, yes.
I mean, that's the bottom line. It's different, if you're a 4-man, but if you're one of the guys that's supposed to be running, that just jacks everything up. The geometry of your whole floor is messed up because your point guard is supposed to have that play.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what was going on in the other lane, but the idea is get the ball to Fears. He can see it because by that time, Carr might already be down there. But if I'm dribbling and I'm not used to running at the point, we might miss that window of opportunity. So get it to him, get in your lane, and something else.
And here's the thing: if Trey Fort hustles his butt off and he's on the opposite wing and Carr's on the other corner, and all it takes is a ball fake or something, and then you get it to Konyndyk for a potential dunk. Those are kind of things that you win or lose games on. And so I don't want to rip on Trey Fort because I think there's still some hope there, and I think the want to is still there. But that's a problem. Meanwhile,
he needs to keep a good attitude, keep working, keep listening, and do what they're programmed to do here. And he can ease back in there because he's not been as productive as I predicted. I'll say I was wrong. He's got the ability to do it, but getting the square peg rounded out so it goes into a round hole like they need it is what they're working on now. We talked about it in the off season that it's going to take they're going to try to expedite 3 years of programming into 3 months.
Yeah,
It took Jaden Akins 3 years to get, to figure out what was needed and how to get all those things straightened out. And Fort, that's the portal era these days of trying to get someone in a 1-year deal here at Michigan State. And we'll see how it goes long term. He only played 9 minutes today, I think, Paul.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why he only played 9 minutes is the thing that really is I think disappointing from my standpoint, or not disappointing, but I don't know how you fix it, is when he gets screened, he gets absolutely erased. Like it's like like thumb sucking fetal position. I'm not even going to be anywhere near that. I mean, against good screeners, and we saw that. We've seen it against several teams. Like even like a Colgate. They set good screens, and he was like, okay.
His feet are a little. They're not real smart.
But
they talk about Charlie Belling around those screens. He kind of gets velcroed onto those screens.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like, I don't know. It's like he's like sucked into a black hole or something. It's really weird. It's like he hits him straight on, and he gets and he doesn't get through
those little things like that, like against Colgate or somebody. There was a play, maybe it's Arkansas, where he was doing a better job of following someone away from the ball around screens, a couple of stagger screening away. He's really on him, and he defends the curl, and then nothing happens, and then he takes a little break for like that much, and then this guy steps back and hits a three. I mean, there's no breaks on defense in this program. There's no time to let up. Some people think you only play defense when your guy has the ball. Here, watch Kohler when his guy doesn't have the ball. He's playing defense all the time, whether his guy has the ball or not, and that's how they hang banners here. And he's Trey Fort's got ability, and we haven't seen the shooting yet, which he can do. We saw a good dunk from him early in the game. He can provide that, but those defensive screws need to be tightened in order to get on the court. And if you don't, then Jordan Scott comes in and takes your minutes.
The other thing too is like, I don't want to beat a dead horse with like with Trey Fort and shortcomings or whatnot, but like the North Carolina game was another one where like the screens were a problem, like for him. So in the athleticism, I mean, there's some guys that are really good athletes, and it doesn't necessarily show up on the floor. I mean, he is a very good athlete. If you're going to have a dunk contest, if he's not competing against Konyndyk, he's probably going to win it. But the athleticism doesn't show up on the basketball floor with contact, with bodies around there. You might see him in transition once in a while, but you don't see him like turning it into I'm hanging in the air forever and I'm going to make this play through contact or whatnot. So he's a really good athlete, but if you're getting taken out of a play completely, the athleticism is negated, and you got to think the game too, and that's a problem. So that's something they got to work on. I think Kurtang was a little bit disappointing today in that they ran some stuff early and he had good looks, shots that we've seen him make, and it's just one of those things where you really can't afford to have him as a streaky shooter, and that's what he is. Because if you're Kurtang and you've got a little bit of some defensive liabilities and whatnot, or some other areas that teams can exploit in your defense, then you've got to be able to score all the time. So right now, to me, Jordan Scott's the one guy that brings value when he's not scoring, and today he was scoring. And you saw the quick release, how nice that shot looked in the corner, under pressure. And he doesn't ever seem like he's under pressure, to be honest with you. Maybe when the shot wasn't falling, but he did some really good things. And I guess the next manifestation for him is, to be a guy that not just shoots when he's wide open like he did today in the corner, but when they start running some stuff for him, can he score on those type of plays when they're running him off a screen to get him open and get him shots? We haven't seen a lot of that from him, but I think that's the next level for him.
And his hustle points.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in transition, get a deflection to stop a transition situation, active to the offensive boards to keep rebounds alive, get offensive rebounds for himself, blocking a shot. Those hustle plays. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I think the first practice that we were here, first practice of the season, Izzo told Jordan Scott, hey, you're making deflections today. I see that. I like that. That was an old Tom Crean, Rick Pitino thing that Crean started charting here a long time ago, and they still do. And Jordan Scott plays hard, and he's got an IQ and basketball IQ, and that's he was only shooting like 14% from three-point range coming into this game, but they all know he might be the best pure shooter on the team eventually once it shows itself. So he starts making shots
with the floor burns, man.
To go with all those other things, he ends up being the guy. Today he played 25 minutes. He's on the court at crunch time.
Yeah, and he's like, there's one play today where he was like, there's a loose ball scenario, and he just dove right in there, head first, straight for it, like he's trying to steal home in baseball. I've got like utmost respect for for what he does and how he does it, because he doesn't look. I mean, you look at him and he looks Max Christie, who's more of a finesse player. Jordan Scott is not a finesse player at all. I mean, I don't know what he was in high school because I didn't watch all of his games, but that kid is tough as nails.
Yeah.
He goes and gets it. He is as blue collar and as tough and nasty as it gets. And he'll throw down with you and he'll smile at you.
He looks like a model.
He does,
but he's tough, man.
Right. Steve Smith was tough too, but
that's what Izzo compared with Steve Smith. He's slender, but he's got this toughness.
Right. I saw him put a forearm into Cam Ward's head in practice on one of those practices you weren't at, and Cam Ward was like taken to the ground, and it was like trainer time. It was just Jordan Scott going in there trying to get a rebound, and I give him a lot of credit, and I think that length, the shooting, and the IQ, he's going to be in the. I really believe that he's on his way to the starting lineup.
Yeah, and the shooting coming around from the corner, running those plays. That one they. Got it to Fears, and Cooper sets a screen along the baseline, flex cut, corner, shoot, ready. You don't have to talk him into shooting it. You're here to shoot it. So when we run this good screen along the baseline, and then later on, that Cooper, that between the legs pass.
That was amazing.
Which you got to be here for 4 years and have complete trust and complete hall pass privileges to do that. And with that, and that was a good read by Cooper for Divine Ukuchukwu, making that 45-degree cut. I think it was the baseline, makes the cut, draws the defense, then out to Scott, hits another three-pointer, back-to-back possessions. It was looking like party time in East Lansing at that point. Credit to Duke, came back and made some three-pointers, the big three-pointer with Isaiah. What's Isaiah's last name? Evans, is it? I always want to call him Shimu Evans.
Isaiah Evans, yeah.
Shima was a different generation, but nice play. Shire makes a play call, something they haven't run the whole game. He comes up to set a ball screen for Boozer. They put the ball in Boozer's hands. You're four-man, and you're isolating, and it's a screen, but it ends up being a ghost screen with a flare screen. Just an action they run once. Three-pointer, and he makes the shot. Just a simple chalkboard play, but a couple of lottery picks executing it. Born out of a situation where what's the guy's name? Boozer is isolating, playing point center. Newsflash: Duke has talent again, Paul.
The funny thing is, in the first half, I felt like Boozer could have been more aggressive, going to the basket and really challenging. I felt like his patience on that. It was refreshing, but I felt like, man, he's your best player. And I told Jake Laskawa, who works with us, I said, when they come out of the half, they're going to be running stuff right for them.
Exactly right.
And you knew it was going to happen, and that's what great players do. But I think, what did he score? 12 of the first 14 points in the second half, maybe something like that. I feel like one of the problems when you play a team like Duke is you kind of get lulled into, when you're up by 3 points or you're up by 5 points, you get lulled into that deal where, hey, we got to stop here. We're still up by 3. We're still up by 5. It gets to 1. You go back and hit a shot. We're up by 3. But what hurts you in games like this is you don't take advantage of the opportunities, to finish little things where you could go up by 7, go up by 9. And that's what you really need to do in games like this. You need to kind of put some stuff together, because we've seen against these guys, in a lot of these games, Champions Classic, that talent does come out to shine, and all it takes is a little screen or a simple play like you were talking about for the Evans 3 in the corner, for them to really kind of pull away.
And Shire said he made more play calls than he normally wants to or likes to, but felt he had to because Michigan State played such good defense. They have to go to their play calls, and that's where Duke has even more in store for you. As far as the zone offense, Duke went to his zone defense late in the game. Shire said it was partly out of necessity because of foul trouble, and I can't remember why else he said, but he felt like one just changed it up and ended up finding something there. Like I wrote in the article posted right after the game ended, 7 straight empty possessions for Michigan State, 0 for 6 during that stretch. I think they went to zone with like 7:45 left in the game, and I think Michigan State might have been up by 3 at that point. 7 straight empty possessions, 0 for 6 with a turnover during that stretch. Fears missed that one at the elbow. I think Scott missed a three-pointer. Duke was doing a good job. And I was at practice here 2 days ago. And, we're watching Michigan State put in the offense, and then they worked on zone offense. Even though Duke doesn't run much zone, had to be prepared for it. And they had some things in there, what they want to do. They worked on it. And, everyone knows when Michigan State, they've got 3 or 4 different ways that they operate against the zone. Primary thing they want to do is get the ball to the foul line and operate through there. Duke did a good job, zone defense, of not allowing that pass to the free throw line. So that gummed up about 3 or 4 possessions. It's like 2 minutes of game time, but gosh, there's 4 minutes to go in the game now. So you haven't had the whole game to figure it out. You had 7 minutes to figure it out. And not only were they playing zone, but what were they trying to take away within that zone? They were taking away that free throw line entry. To Duke's credit, they didn't plan it this way, but they didn't go zone until the end. So that prevents you from getting answers to it. So Michigan State couldn't quite get to the free throw line to go inside out and so forth. So 3 or 4 possessions later, after a timeout, they come out, and Michigan State's alteration, their adjustment was, instead of going to the free throw line, they went down to the baseline straight to Cooper, and he fed Carr, and Carr missed a little 2-footer. And then Cooper missed a 2-footer at some point also. So Michigan State still got in there. It was in traffic, and they weren't wide open layups. They were contested at the rim. But Michigan State still got it in there but missed shots. It's not like they totally – we've seen Michigan State play some good zones going way back here 27 years ago against Temple, and they had that John Chaney defense taking things away. We've seen Syracuse give up shots, but with length take things away. Duke, I don't think really – stifled Michigan State. They just hit them with a changeup with only a few pitches left in the game, and they had a good. Not only did they have a quality zone to go to, even though they've not shown it all year, but it was adjusted to Michigan State. And like I said, it was right at the correct time late in the game to prevent Michigan State from coming back against it. Timing. Duke went to some late relief there and got a bunch of strikeouts.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that you talk about the holidays and what Michigan State can do a little bit better at. I think Konyndyk
take a deep breath is what they can do.
Yeah,
finally,
they can take a deep breath, and they've got finals, so you got to get.
And today was like a final exam.
Yeah.
This has been fall semester. They played Arkansas and Kentucky and North Carolina and Iowa and Colgate. They had then today was final exam time, and they didn't quite ace it today.
Yeah.
And now they get some time, and the next semester is when you actually hang banners. Go ahead, Paul.
What I want to see from Konyndyk is, I think I'm impressed with him when I watch practice with him with his dribble and him getting to spots. I really think if he can get a little bit better, a little bit more consistent with that mid-range jumper, both him and Fears, I really firmly believe. And I've seen Konyndyk do it in practice, when the shot mechanics are right. Izzo wants that ball out, not above your head, but out in front of you a little bit. When those things are right, and his mechanics and his 2-foot jump stop and all that stuff is right, he looks pretty good. But it's still something he's not really confident with. It's like a guy I'm thinking of Brandon Dawson back in the day when he getting that jump hook. Or something like being a veteran player that was strong enough to use his body and never been a post player, but I'm going to be able to use this because I'm stronger than you are. I think Konyndyk is a guy that, because he's strong, because he's got a good handle, because he can rise, that as he works on that and as he does it in games, I think that can be something that can help Michigan State and will help against some of these teams, whether it's drop coverage that they face, but or just tough teams like a Duke, because Konyndyk does have that physicality. He does have the athleticism. He is an elite player, but he can do it in a half court in that scenario where he's not having to settle for a corner three, which they're going to give him. And he might make 30% of them. That's great. But if he wants to really, if Michigan State can really go to another level as a team, if both he and Jeremy Fears can hit those mid-range jumpers against quality defenses, quality physical defenses with length, because it can. The elevation is there for Carr. Fears gets up pretty good on that mid-range jumper, but those are really hard to defend, and that would really give Michigan State another card to play, along with, like what we were talking about earlier, that pick and pop 4. Those are areas where Michigan State can go from being in some ways an average offensive team against good defense. Because let's face it, Duke's defense was they led the ACC in scoring defense, and they were leading the ACC in field goal percentage defense. Their field goal percentage defense is better than Michigan State's, and Michigan State's is really good. So if you can get that mid-range in there, that's so hard to defend. Nobody can defend that anymore. But if Konyndyk can hit that, if Jeremy Fears can hit that, and I'm not asking them to hit it like Tyson Walker, that type of thing, but if they can just get that, if you get even 40% of those, that would be such a big deal for Michigan State with this team, especially with the ability to offensive rebound that they have.
I think Fears' ability to hit three-pointers this year and that pull-up Kalen Lucas 15-footer is the biggest development of the early part of the season.
Yeah.
Kohler also hitting the threes, but Fears, honestly, even coming into this, even 2 months ago, I was like, I don't know if he's ever going to be a good shooter. He just might be like a tum-tum Nairn shooter his whole career. And that's been, you've seen what happens. That's not true at all. The shot looks good. He's making a lot of them. Not today, with a medium range for him. Konyndyk, I've been saying it for a year and a half. And there was something happened in the last week or so. I can't remember if this is a North Carolina game or when I was here at practice where he went to I think it was the North Carolina game. Had a little 14-footer where he rose up, and I can't remember if he made the shot or not, but he went up straight, and his release point was probably 11 and a half feet. Nobody in college is defending that. Exactly. So that's to your point that if you take during Christmas break, and if he shoots 500 of those a day between now and January 1st, that can become not only a weapon for this team in this season, for him to make millions of dollars, because nobody's defending that.
Well,
along with because if you have to defend that, then he can go by you and drive and dish, drive and dunk, those type of things. But he's a good kid and he works on it, and it's better than it used to be because he didn't really have that at all maybe a year and a half ago or a year ago. I think there's that is something mid-season that you can work on. Kohler has developed that three-point shot. He's a legit 40% three-point shooter now, just like he's gotten to where Suton was late in his career, where Hauser was. He was supposed to be on his way in, but really Hauser didn't dial that in until late in his career. The late, great Adrian Payne dialed it in late in his career. A.J. Granger, the shooting was late in his career. You earned that when your percentage shows that you gained that. Kohler slowly but surely all last year and then had it in March. Now he's taking another level, but I asked Izzo about this after practice 2 days ago. In the meantime, he's kind of in a little slump in the low post. That great touch he had early in his career, more of those are rolling off the rim. Today he had a nice little hook shot over Boozer in the second half, but had a couple roll off the rim. And Izzo's like, he's worked so much on that perimeter shot, he's got to make sure that low block package for Kohler is dusted back off so that he can be a double-pronged offensive threat.
Yeah, I think sometimes you saw it today. Like he's still like Izzo's falling away, fading away, and that's okay in some instances, man. If you got like a weak side shot blocker and you got someone else, and
you don't want that to be your low post shot every single time.
No, because it's hard to do.
Not that I know. I've never gone against.
No, but it's hard to do. And you're not really in good rebounding position usually. It's hard to get your shot. But I was going to say with Kohler with that perimeter jumper, to do that effectively and still be a good rebounding team, you need your tag team partner, your center, to come and get rebounds. And I think that's one of the things. Carson Cooper did a nice job with rebounds, and a lot of those were contested. A lot of them were one-handed because he was being held with the other. His other hand was being held, and he had a double-double today. 16 rebounds.
16.
So there's a lot of really good things to like about Michigan State. There's a lot of things where they can get better, but that's honestly what I would like to see. You honestly want to see a lot of areas that can be improved, because if I'm Michigan State, I feel better than, with some, you got veterans, you got veteran core, you've got areas where you got to get better. But that's better than being a team like, I would say, like a Purdue, where you get beat by Iowa State today, and it's in decisive fashion. You're like, okay, what are we going to do? So many of these guys are the ceiling. You're already at the ceiling, and I think the misnomer with Michigan State is always everyone assumes that Tom Izzo guys are at their ceiling. This team isn't, and they've got to find ways to fit everyone together still, and keep guys happy or keep guys with a role or contributing. But there's a lot of stuff that they can do moving forward. It's been really exciting so far. It's going to be fun to watch these guys because they want to, and the drive is there. Yeah,
and you mentioned the Kohler, the pick and pop action. What we haven't seen today, we've seen a little bit earlier in the year, but here and there. The next thing is screen roll and replace. Michigan State is so good with Fear's screen roll to Cooper that you have to help over there. And if they're taking that away, and the four-man starts on the low block, but during that picks out to the replace, that's the old A.J. Granger play. It's hard to defend all those things when you got a four-man that can stretch it. And Michigan State's got that screen lob game with Cooper that's going to should attract three defenders. Back to him, screen roll replace is going to be good. Also, when you're having to get out on that four-man, that opens up the elbow jumper for Fears or that pin-down curl for Carr, either off the dribble or off the catch. And the thing about Kerr Tang that, we've always known he's a shooter, supposed to be a range shooter, streak shooter, whatever. I didn't give him enough credit until the last 2 weeks hitting that medium range. Yeah. He really hit that medium range against North Carolina. He missed a medium range today, hitting the medium range in practice. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not, but that's something, those little tight curl Calvert Cheney catch and shoot 15-footers, that's a nice little play call to go to as well. And if he's not a starter, when you go to the bench 7 minutes in the game, when you have a guy coming out, when somebody has something really good he can go to, if he comes off the bench and maybe Scott becomes a starter, there's still things that you're finding ace cards and trump cards that each one of these guys have. They may not all be complete players, but the Kurtang medium ranger is good. But you're right, the defense for him has to come along too.
I think he needs to come off the bench. And I think in the best case scenario, because he has the catch and shoot ability, but with that mid range, I just feel like he's done. I feel like he's in a better situation coming off, maybe coming off the bench. But that mid range stuff they ran, he did some of that in high school too. I remember watching some of their Adidas circuit games. He did more mid range than I remembered. And his high school team, I think it was Bradford Christian Academy. They ran some mid range stuff for him, which is pretty darn impressive for a high school to run those kind of things.
Now, the running game for Michigan State, the transition game is not up to standard yet, program standard. Duke did a good job getting back on defense. Some others have tried to do it, but they're not really getting those guys running the lane. Even Konyndyk with the great dunks and everything, but not getting the other guy in the lane, whether it be Fort or, Jordan Scott is still new to it. Tang is new to it, might not have the greatest straight line speed, but you don't necessarily need to have straight line speed for it to work out for you in this system. Izzo says we're not running like we normally do. He didn't say that after the game today, but he said that in other times, and it's not there for them. So that's another part of this Michigan State team that can raise the ceiling a little bit, ceiling of potential, because we're not seeing the Heathcote transition game a little bit here and there, but the blitz counter break, all of that is not dusted off and up to the standard and sharpened and ready to go. That's one of the things with these games against Kentucky, North Carolina, Arkansas, this gauntlet, rapid fire fashion. Now, finals, they've not had a lot of chance to work on themselves. A lot of it is so concentrated on the opponent and so much time on defense and defensive scouting reports that you're not able to really get your game going. Now they can take a little breather, take some exams. You play Toledo, you play Oakland, catch your breath, and rev back up, because they have spent a lot of physical and mental energy by December 6th, unlike any season I can recall, Paul.
Yeah, you think about it, the guys that are running the break, like Konyndyk played the 4 last year, so it's completely different. I remember when Malik Hall tried to make that transition and you started trying to play the 3, it's like really hard to be able to, defend, because Konyndyk is it's a new for him defending like wings and guards. It's a new thing, and he's getting better at it.
He played mostly the left wing most of the time last year. Yeah. When he played the 4, it was out of emergency when they had to sit cold.
But he wasn't running. He wasn't playing as many minutes and for as long as stretches.
That's right.
And he's not. And they need, honestly, for a game like this, they need him to rebound too. So it's hard for those guys that are like against this Duke team. They're good enough rebounding where you needed your guards to help out with rebounding, and it's hard to run. I think part of the thing too is Jeremy Fears had the ball in his hands so much. And, in this game they had 17 fast break points, and John Shire was kind of like upset with that. Duke's coach, John Shire, was upset that they gave up that much to Michigan State. But it wasn't anything where Michigan State was trying to do it consistently. I felt like even Jeremy Fears wasn't really pushing it like he can. So part of this is because so much is expected of Jeremy Fears, like Divine Ugochukwu is going to have to be able to play more minutes at point guard, and I say that because he has been playing minutes, but a lot of the minutes he's played has been with Jeremy Fears. Yeah. Because Michigan State, I think the concern is that they're going to need those two on the court together because their defense isn't going to be good enough. Jordan Scott, I think, would help in that regard, but they need Divine to play some more point guard minutes and get comfortable running that break. I thought Divine. I think he's done. I think he's quietly shown improvement over a really tough schedule that could have made him look really bad. Mm-hmm. And I've liked his attitude. You can see his confidence has come along. He hit a big 3 that was a tough shot earlier today. He's coming.
Serviceable.
He's coming. He's young. He's a young dude, but he needs to run the point. He needs that experience. And if he can get some more against Toledo, get some against Oakland. Oakland's going to be weird because it's at Amoeba zone and it's going to be a problem. But if you want the break, or if Michigan State wants the break to be a Michigan State caliber break, one of the reasons they could do it last year is they had guard and wing depth. You know, you had multiple point guards and you had guys that that strength in numbers thing. You keep guys fresh. But Divine, if he gets some more experience as a point guard, I can see them being more selective in using that. But their defense is really good too, and so the teams that they're playing are using most of the shot clock. You notice that too. So this is really interesting. It was a high level game, and I've watched a couple of these games the last few days, like Duke's game against Florida, and people are like, low scoring or whatever. But those are high level games, and those are games where possessions matter, and those are games that have legs and have value, beyond the conference season in comparison to some of the, the non-conference chuck fest that we see.
Yes.
And everyone's like, hey, this is high level basketball, 100 to 89. No, it's not. It's like Moneyball. It's like Moneyball plus, and you got to be able to get to a point as a basketball team. And this is one of the things that John Shire was excited about. Is that you got to find different ways to win. If all you can do is win by hitting threes, there's going to be a time where you don't have it. If all you can do is win by transition basketball, or if you're a trap team and you're getting steals and turnovers for touchdowns, there's going to be a time where you can't do that. So the best teams find multiple ways to win, and Michigan State's got to continue to get better in different areas, and I think they've shown that they can win in different ways. But that's how you got to be a really good team if you want to make a run in March. If you want to win a conference championship, you're gonna have to find different ways to win. Duke did find different ways to win. It wasn't just Boozer. It was guys making shots because Boozer set them up. But that was a big deal. Michigan State's had multiple different scorers make shots when it mattered during that conference season, but they need to get a little bit better at everything if they really want to take this thing to the next level.
And to your point about fears, that's something they could work on here in the next 4 weeks, is getting Divine more and more minutes, get more comfortable, him pushing the break, and him Divine pitching some important middle relief innings, because Fears only sat for 5 minutes and 12 seconds in this game.
And Izzo
said he thought the Fears got a little tired at the end, and I'm playing him too much, I'm pushing him too hard. And that's going to be the case for the rest of the year against these really good teams if Fierce has to play that many minutes. If Divine can just give him a few more innings, so instead of playing 34 or 48, if he can just play 33 or 32 and a half, those 32 minutes for Fears are going to be better if they're more enriched and rested, if he can get help from some middle relief there. And a lot of people are like, well, these other teams, they'll play point guard for 40 minutes. I've been saying this for 30 years. Playing 35 minutes in the Michigan State system at point guard the way Fears does right now is like playing 48 minutes for another system in terms of the way Michigan State wants to run after it makes and misses and the improved running that they want to do going forward. I said a few minutes ago that Michigan State's going to work on themselves to improve their transition game to get it back to the standard. You might not be able to do that unless you get Fears just another minute or two of rest so that you're not emptying his tank so often. So those are things Michigan State can work on to make themselves a better team in the future. If Divine can do that, it makes Fears, gives him just a little more rest. It's going to make the minutes that he's on the court better, and the last 4 minutes of games. If you go back to the old Izzo blueprint and how they built this, they used to sit Cleaves twice each half, and Digger Phelps used to rip on him for it, but Izzo loved the way Michigan State was fresher in the last 5 minutes. Today, Michigan State might not have been the fresher team in the last 5 minutes. They both were tired, but Michigan State certainly didn't have the edge in that area. Izzo complained about the officiating, Paul. A lot of the fans are upset about it, too. I don't know. There was the one.
Both ways, man.
Yeah, I thought Michigan State had a favorable whistle in the first half. There was the travel call that ended up in a three-pointer. Okay, they might have missed that one. Michigan State would have liked to have gotten Boozer off the court with his fifth foul on that illegal screen where they hit the three-pointer. He sets a screen and Fears goes flying, and the guy for Duke, I can't remember who it was, hit a three-pointer. It would have been a loophole thing where Michigan State would have been happy to foul him out and not get those 3 points right there. Probably would have swung the game. 4 minutes left in the game. Izzo is the one person who's against the 5-foul rule more than anyone in the country. He thinks it should be 6 because only in this sport does someone have to leave the game at crunch time. But Michigan State would have liked to have had that happen at that point. It's probably a good no call, and the guy made the shot. So I'm always back backyard rules. If it counts in the backyard, it should count out here. Not always, but I'm not going to ask for a loophole yellow card when the dude made the shot. So now the other one, Cooper on the dunk, I think that's one Izzo wanted a foul. I don't know.
Where we sit, I didn't see that close enough. So.
Yeah, so Izzo complains about officiating here and there, but not a whole lot. But today he did it a little bit more than usual, while also giving Duke full credit for winning the games and so forth. But would you make it Izzo calling out the officials a little bit?
I would say the one thing with Fears,
because the crowd, the fans agree with Izzo on that.
Of course they do. But this is also like I would counter by saying, when's the last time you saw Duke in foul trouble? I mean, really, like
that was different.
And they've got great athletes. I mean, this wasn't like
never. I don't watch every game, but it was.
This wasn't Mike Krzyzewski's team coming in here, and I felt there was times like to me, if I was an official and I would have a hard time making calls with Jeremy Fears because he is a very good actor, and lots of times he's thrown, lots of times lots of it is embellishment with him. There's a gamesmanship and an art, and you see it every time they call a whistle. He's like pretending like he's in an act of shooting, but. There's a couple times where they reviewed it on film, and I thought when I saw it real time, I didn't think it was a foul when it ended up being a turnover. So I don't really know. I know it was super physical on both ends, and yeah, there's one or two plays that could swing it, and I get that. And maybe they did miss a play here or miss a play there, but I felt like this game was physical on both sides, and I was okay with it. I'd much rather have it like this than have the one guy come in whose specialty is seeing every illegal screen that no one else sees, or that type of thing, or wants to call a carry because his version of the carry is different than anyone else's, or something like that.
That'd be me, by the way. I'd be that official.
That's why I said that. I don't like
calling carries.
A lot of officials miss travels. A lot of guys miss travels, and it's like me. Officiating high school skiing and seeing the ski gates, man.
I'd like to see that. I'd be on your tail officiating your officiating abilities.
No, you won't, because I'm like
it'd be cold out there, though.
Yeah, you'd be too cold. You'd be shivering right along with me. But if I'm not going to call a guy missing a gate. Let's just put it this way, and they're going fast, and I'm a volunteer. Unless I absolutely know that guy missed a gate, and unless it was really obvious, I'm not gonna call it. So there's like some calls that fans will be like, "Oh, that was obviously traveling," and
if you don't know for sure, don't call it.
You don't know for sure, and I wouldn't call it either. Like Jeremy Fears got called for a travel the other day when it was just like a hesitation type dribble, and that was a case where they assumed that it was a travel. But I thought the officiating was. I can understand why people have gripes with the call here or there, but overall I thought it was fair on both sides.
Duke made the plays, got the rebounds. Did I ever tell you about the Ralph Simpson ABA NBA All-Star game? I've told you about that back in 1972. I was on the rabbit hole on YouTube one night, and I was watching old NBA All-Star games.
You ever see Jim's YouTube feed? It's amazing.
And I was watching it was ABA against the NBA. This is a real game.
Did they use the ball, the awesome one?
No.
Because that was cool.
And this was an actual competitive game, league against league, competitive leagues when pro basketball was not a major sport. It was barely a major. It was a major sport, but it was way low on the totem pole pecking order of American sports. And Ralph Simpson, former Michigan State great, playing in the ABA. He gets on the court. This is like 5 minutes into the game. ABA's up like 12-9. He checks the thing and gets it. Like, carry. In an all-star game. But it was a real basketball game. By the way, Walt Frazier.
Was it
yeah, but that was in the ABA. They didn't call it.
I'm just messing.
But to watch an all-star game, they whistle a guy for a carry, and I bring it up because it's Michigan State's Ralph Simpson, who was great. But also, as a side note in that game, Walt Frazier was the star point guard for the Knicks at that time, and the all-star game I think was in the newly built Nassau County Coliseum on Long Island. So Walt Frazier. Clyde Frazier, as he was called, up and down Broadway in New York City at that time, usually played at Madison Square Garden, but had to make his way to Long Island. Walt Frazier, the starting guard for the NBA All-Star game, was late. Clyde arrived late for the All-Star game. That was great. NBA versus ABA. Go look for it in, 1972 or so. Football. Fitzgerald was here. We'll wrap it up here real quick. Reported that Joe Rossi will be staying at Michigan State. Pete Thamel reported that. And also it sounds like James Adams, the safeties, coach is going to be staying as well. I'm a big fan of James Adams. We didn't see him get interviewed a lot this year. They loved him at was it Wake Forest? I've forgotten already. Interesting that
wasn't it Purdue? He went somewhere.
He was at Purdue, then Wake Forest. I don't know. I should know these things. I'm old. I can't retain these. I just know he's a good coach, and I wasn't. I remember when the coaching change was made. I was like, yeah, James Adams is probably going to move on because that's the way the coaching industry is. And I was like, that's too bad because he could have really made a mark here. So he's coming back. Rossi, people are wondering, is he coordinator? That's still being ironed out from what I understand. I said on Monday when Fitzgerald was hired that initially I heard that Rossi could stay as linebackers coach, and I heard Wozniak might be in good shape also. I think Hawkins is in good shape to stay. So usually you're not going to keep more than 2 or 3. So Adams might be a 4th. Rossi, I don't know if it'll end up being 4. I'm not sure, but right now it's looking like 4. I think Hawkins, there's a lot of indications. Wozniak, have to wait and see. Certainly Adams and Rossi now, according to Samuel's report. Does that mean Rossi's the coordinator? Not yet. Not sure. That's still being ironed out from what I understand. And it just, a lot of it depends on what's going to actually happen with he could be coordinator or a position coach or a co-coordinator, something like that. I understand. I've not talked to Joe Rossi about this, and I've not asked him about this, but I hear that he loves it here. And he would probably want to stay, although he could be a coordinator somewhere else. But I think he'd like to stay. Would he stay as a position coach? I had heard from another source that he would not want to do that, but I've not confirmed that with him either. But since he's agreed to stay, I think that is a possibility on the table. So I think he's staying even if it is a position coach, although that might not be the case. He'd be a linebackers coach. Bottom line, he's staying. He became pretty favorable to the fans late in the year with all the excitement he showed late in the year, helping get that defense looking good later in the season. And Fitzgerald has coached against him in the past when he was at Minnesota and at Rutgers, so he knows what he's about. The last game of the season notwithstanding, when Maryland really attacked Michigan State successfully through the air. Is he going to be coordinator, co-coordinator, linebackers coach? Remains to be seen. But with Rossi staying around, I think that increases Michigan State's chances of holding on to a lot of defensive players, which also is an important thing as they move forward. So coverage of that over at SpartanMag.com as we move forward as the Fitzgerald regime enters week number 2, starting on next Monday. And Fitzgerald was at the hockey game last night, Paul, throwing out pizzas during the Hungry Like a Wolf Pizza House thing. He's throwing the pizzas out.
He's banging on the glass.
And he grabbed the tuba for the guy and tried the tuba on. I mean, he's
having a good time, man.
We knew he's going to be a rah-rah guy, and he was a rah-rah guy, and he's getting people fired up today. He's enjoying it.
He missed being around. I mean,
he never had crowds like this.
And he was like, one thing I always felt bad about for Pat Fitzgerald when we went down to Northwestern is there's always more Michigan State fans in the crowd.
He's never had this.
Right. So this is a good time for him, and he's loving life, and he's all in. I like Rossi being retained. There's a lot of young defensive players on this team that I think have some promise. I think Jordan Hall's a guy that's not young, but he's a guy that you would love to have back if you can, if everything works out. But guys like Brady Pretzlaff and I'm thinking of Derek Simmons, an in-state guy. Maybe he would have stayed, if Rossi had left. But a guy like Ben Roberts, if you could keep him, Ben Suberin. I mean, there's some guys on this team that probably would be hesitant to have too much change on defense. Man, they've been through so much as it is, but there's some good dudes that you can fill some spots in around, and I think Rossi. I was down on him early in the season because I felt like there's zero motion on defense, on offense. But when he did come down on the field and he started engaging with his defense, and he made that decision to do that, it was a game changer for Michigan State. And you could see the real Joe Rossi. So I think you'll see the real Joe Rossi coaching for Pat Fitzgerald. And those two guys seem like, they're both very smart, intelligent guys. And they both have a lot of energy. And I think they're going to be good for each other. And it should be fun. But there's definitely a lot of energy in that football building. And I think there are a lot of people that I know that even weren't totally sold on Pat Fitzgerald, have come around pretty quickly because they understand once you see him interact with people around campus or at a press conference or just doing interviews on Big Ten Network, you kind of realize what Michigan State in some ways was missing, what they needed, and they needed a lightning bolt, and they got it. and Pat Fitzgerald.
And Jordan Hall is going to be an interesting one to watch. He's become a fan favorite. I mean, he's such a good soldier. He's been battling and playing through pain, and
he's put his heart into this program. And like in this day and age, I understand why guys would leave, but for a guy that's given that much to this program under really crappy circumstances, you just like to see him like write his own final chapter at this university and go out a winner and go out a legend. Because I do think like if he does pen a final successful chapter, he will be one of those guys that you would consider like a transformative type guy. Or like I always felt bad for like Clifton Ryan from Saginaw Arthur Hill, who played in the John L. Smith era. He had a Jordan Hall type career in that he just saddled up game after game and fought, through everything, whether he could walk or not. He just found a way to saddle up and make plays. And he always, was always given the toughest questions that he had no control over. Had to play 90 plays a game as a defensive tackle. And I just always really felt bad that Cliff Ryan's last, go around was during that 2006 season, and
at the end of the John L. Smith
era, and I was like, that is a guy that deserved to play for Mark D'Antonio, because he would have been appreciated. He would have been a cornerstone piece. It would have been just a great way to ride into the sunset. I feel completely the same way about Jordan Hall, and I want him to be able to like pen his own chapter on his own terms. So if he thinks it's best for him to do something else, and and I could see that too, where he said, I've given my time and my heart to this program. I need to do something else. But I really believe that he can go out and have a special senior season. And the other thing is Joe Rossi believes in Jordan Hall too. So that's a guy that you can build a defense around in terms of having the kind of OKG, high energy, charismatic. He's such a great leader. He's always been since his freshman year forward. But I'd really love to see him stay. I'd really love to see him have a great senior season.
And one thing you can do in this day and age, if it were Jordan Hall, he might want to go someplace that's a top 20 program that just needs that inside linebacker or something. But what Michigan State, maybe they can just say, okay, we're just going to pay you more than that program will. You can and make it worth his while, because he's paid such dues here. Stay here, mentor these guys, be a leader during year one of the Fitzgerald era. We're going to pay you like an all Big Ten linebacker, even though we might not be able to be, we might not make the playoff next year like some other team that might be advertising a shot for you to go somewhere.
It's going to be interesting, because one of these Pat Fitzgerald's made.
I think he's that important as a character also.
One of these Pat Fitzgerald's made crystal clear is that he's not going to he doesn't want to overpay for players, in terms of, he's not going to pay more than their value. With a guy like Jordan Hall, it's hard to quantify his value.
Right.
Like a guy that, where your availability is your best ability. I've seen him walk into football games and have 10 tackles and lead his team in the field that he shouldn't even be playing that week, and it would sideline most guys. So,
and they took him off the field that one play against Minnesota. It was a game-changing play. They tried to give him one snap of rest, and they got out for a 50-yard run because his replacement went into the wrong gap.
And Pat Fitzgerald being a smart linebacker, Joe Rossi being a guy that his system thrives with smart linebackers. I mean, they're going to place value on on that position. That's a key position. But I
not an area of great depth either, so it makes him even more valuable.
Right.
So we'll see what happens
Michigan
there.
State, it would be really, really nice to see him to go out the right way. I just he's done a lot for the program, and to me, he's a Spartan. Regardless of where he ends up.
Well, Rossi's going to advocate for him.
Oh yeah, Rossi, like one of his last press conferences or last interviews, he was talking about how great he thinks Jordan Hall can be. And,
right.
So I really like to see the next chapter with some help from a pass rush. If they, those are, there's a lot of stuff that Michigan State needs, but pass rush is a big deal.
Right.
That's that. You talk about the stuff that the passing stuff they gave up against, against Maryland. Like if you don't have safeties, I mean, if you're on fumes with your safeties and you don't have a pass rush, I mean, that's a recipe for giving up 600 yards.
Right. And Michigan State is going to have to retool the safety situation too. So a lot of work to do on the roster. It's not turnkey by any means. So we'll see what goes on.
There are some good young defensive players though. There really are if they can keep those. Like you think of LaFele, who had some good good plays. Brady Pretzloff.
If you keep LaFele,
that's what I'm saying. If you keep them, I'm just saying but Joe Rossi. It's more likely
And a lot of it depends on where Lengi Suayanoa ends up. You know, there's a lot of things to be determined. Today's Saturday. Fitzgerald's been on the job for 5 days, which means Michigan State players can go into the portal today, 5 days after a coach is hired. So we'll be keeping an eye on that over at SpartanMag.com. Anything else, Paul?
Well, they could go out of the portal too, right? When is the thing like?
January 2nd, I think, is when the real portal starts. But, you know, the agents will be talking behind the scenes anyway. But still football season. But the basketball has been more noteworthy than any time up to December 6th than I can ever remember. Even nationally, the beginning of the college basketball season, more compelling matchups across the country here early in the season. And I think college basketball as a whole, I don't think it's my imagination. I think college basketball has kind of like spearheaded its way into the conversation more in late November, early December than I can remember.
No,
is that my imagination?
No, I think so. There's more networks airing it. You know, like TNT has had some good games too.
Good matchups.
And you know, like FS1's done a nice job. Fox has done a nice job.
Like all week.
CBS. Yeah, there's like 3 really good games on when we were watching this one. One thing I wanted to ask you is,
don't hit me so hard, man. All right, what?
People ask me all the time who the next offensive coordinator is going to be. So you got any thoughts on that?
No. But I had heard, you know, we ran that offensive coordinator hot board a couple days ago.
It was good, too.
Well, dove into some of those guys, and I mentioned that one was actually, I'd been hearing some whispers that there were some actual talks. It was Jason Candle.
Yeah.
Candle was the one, and Candle has done such a great job at Toledo. And I think it was pretty clear that Candle maybe had told his agent or whomever, hey, you know, I'm ready to, my light's on, it's time to go.
He deserves it.
He'd already done so much at Toledo, and this year, he's got the play sheet there. I don't know if he's like Tom Osborne, like making the play calls, not sure, but it's his offense, and he was offensive coordinator for Matt Campbell when Campbell was head coach at Toledo, and Toledo's offense this year led the MAC in everything, and Candle, according to my sources, was being talked to by Michigan State, and I think it sounded like was in real good position to get him. But then the dominoes, you know,
he deserves the job, man.
UConn opens up, takes a head coaching job, and you know what? Campbell's going to Penn State. I think Candle might have gotten the Iowa State job if he'd waited another couple days. So Michigan State, from what I understand, was in there and might have been real close to making it happen, but he was too hot of a commodity, and he moves on. Yeah. So that's the name of that tune. That one will be an interesting one going forward. Is that going to be a woulda, coulda, shoulda? Like I remember way back in the old days, I think Perlis thought that he almost had Mean Joe Green as defensive line coach once upon a time, but it did not quite happen at Michigan State. That would have been a good one, wouldn't it? Anything else, Paul? No. All right, still football season every day, basketball season. Tough loss today, but one that they can grow from and learn from, and reinforce the importance of the screws being tightened and the accountability. Because like Izzo says, Michigan State does not have great margin for error. They don't have a lot of lottery picks on this team. Good team, but the things that make Michigan State is good. The things that make Michigan State good have to really be tightened up against opponents like this. And that was a reminder today. Great atmosphere. Didn't get a win, but they learn, they move on. Can take a deep breath now a little bit and recharge toward the rest of December and that winter semester when it comes up. For Paul Konyndyk, my name is Jim Comparoni. I've been watching the VCast from East Lansing, Michigan with the Spartans for SpartanMag.com.